The Simone Feiler Podcast, giving authors a platform. Welcome to the podcast.
Emmilia O'Sullivan should be effing dead. Imagine that, writing a book called I Should Be Effing Dead. But I can tell you, after having the absolute pleasure of creating Emilia's audiobook with her self-narrating and reliving everything she's been through, this girl is here for a reason. Welcome to the Simone Feiler Podcast, Emmilia.
Thank you.
So good to be chatting with you today about
I
your
know,
book.
I'm very excited.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on this incredible achievement, publishing your first book. How does it feel to be a published author?
Oh, it's unreal, honestly. Like I had this idea to write a book for 10 years and I never ever thought it would come true. I just thought, oh, it's a fantasy dream. Maybe one day, who knows? And then I had this really bad experience back in November 2022, and after that I thought, no, I've got to write this book now. And then I didn't really know how to do it or where to do it, and I got on the journey in August last year, and then I published it in December last year.
Wow, that was quick then in the end.
Yeah, it was very quick. And I had not one word written down either. I was all in my head and I knew what I wanted to speak about, but I didn't have anything unpacked. I didn't know what chapter was going to be what or where anything was going to go. And then I published it in December in time for Christmas. And initially I just wrote it for myself, really. And I thought, hey, if I inspire a couple of people, then great, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
And then so I sold it and people were reading it and came back to me with amazing feedback. I was so overwhelmed with the support.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want any sympathy from it. I didn't want any, feel sorry for me. I just wanted to write a book and go, hey, this is my experience. I'm alive. You can do it too, basically.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, I've got my paperback and I've got my ebook, and I thought I'm going to do an audiobook, and that's when I was introduced to you.
Yeah, and I can't rave enough about how well you delivered your narration. Outstanding.
I couldn't believe it either. I think you gave me 10 hours and I did it in 5.
I know. You smashed that thing, and your voice is so gorgeous.
Thank you.
And obviously the
I
content...
hate my voice, but I think everyone hates their own voice, but I'm learning to love it. I'm learning to love it.
As you should. Yeah, you were so engaging, and obviously the content's incredibly compelling. But I dare anyone to try and put this one down once you start listening. It's just like compulsive. I was through that book very quickly.
That was the feedback I was getting. Everyone, I'd deliver the book and they'd tell me they got it. I'm like, great, you've got the book. Now, whenever you read it. And then within 2 days, they're like, oh, I'm done. I'm like, sorry, what? They're like, yeah, I couldn't put it down. I was like, okay, good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is compulsive listening. So obviously you'd never had any experience going into the recording studio before doing this, right? So how was that? What were your feelings coming in, first of all?
I was so nervous at the start. I was all I was thought about was I'm going to make every single mistake. I'm not going to be able to pronounce anything. I'm going to sound just one tone the whole way through. I'm going to sound boring. I'm going to stuff up. And then once I sat down and did the first few lines, I thought, okay, this is not that bad. And then once I started reading, it was like full steam ahead and there was no stopping me. So I actually got upset when the experience was over, because I was like, oh, I'm not coming back to the studio anymore.
Oh, yeah, you feel like a bit of a rock star once you're done, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
but I've got other things in plan. So
yeah, good. Well, we'll find out.
I definitely will get back into the studio somehow.
Awesome. Looking forward to working with you again in there. So your journey with health challenges is among, if not like the most traumatizing I've ever heard of, just quietly.
Oh, yeah.
You've had a kidney transplant, nephrectomy, osteoporosis, spinal fusion, a cardiac arrest, pulmonary embolism, kidney failure, sepsis, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, pneumonia, and you say in your sample, even a craniotomy. Almost as if you've hit the jackpot. What? And not only did you have to face
there's other
all of
things
these
in there that I've missed out as well. Like that's just, a condensed list of everything I've gone through.
That is crazy. Like,
it is.
How hard was it to come up with your title then of your cover? I guess
well,
not
funny
hard.
That. So I originally wanted 30 years of bittersweet, because I was 30 years old when I wrote the book, and all this, I mean, I was born with kidney disease, so I lived with kidney disease my whole life, but things didn't really get serious until I was about 17. And then things got really serious from 21 onwards.
Yeah.
So it was a good 10 years of my life where I had to deal with all these things. And I thought, oh, 30 years of bittersweet, because, you know, part of it was really bitter and part of it was sweet. And then I thought about it and I'm like, it kind of ends there. And I'm like, no, I'm not done there. Like, I've got so many more years to live.
Yeah.
I don't want to end it there. So I was just speaking to someone and I thought, well, as I was speaking to them, we were just bouncing ideas, and I said, well, really, I should be dead. And they go, well, there's your title.
Wow.
I
That's
was like, you
cool.
know what? And I'm going to throw an effort in there just to emphasize the fact that I really should be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing. That's a very cool story. So, I
yeah,
mean, not only did you face those and others, but you have overcome every single one.
every.
Where did your superpower come from?
Oh, honestly, it's my will to survive and be alive. Like, I fear death. I don't want to die.
No,
I'm
no.
scared of death. I'll stay away from death as much as I can. So my yeah, it's my will and my will to survive and be alive, because I've got so much more to go on,
Yeah.
and I've got so much more to give, and I know my purpose in life now, because I started a career in pathology testing, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to work in a lab and I'm going to work with blood, and that didn't go to plan, obviously.
Yeah.
And now my purpose is to help people, and that's
Yes.
what I'm doing.
That's why I said in my opener, you know, you are here for a reason, obviously. You've been through
Absolutely.
all of
Yeah.
that. Like, there's
Yeah.
no one that could say to you, you know, but it's really hard from you know, this is so hard for me. You're like, what?
Yeah, pretty much.
Come back to me later, mate.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it's more of it like you can do it. And I've got to give credit to my positive mindset as well, because I don't think I'd be here if I didn't have a positive mindset either.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think the mind is so powerful, and that's what got me through it, honestly.
So,
Um,
did you just start, was it your self-talk, do you think? You know, you have your
I think that's
minds.
where it started. Yeah.
So
It was
how did that start?
so initially, like, the transplant didn't really affect me because I knew that was coming for years. I was well prepared for the kidney transplant.
Yeah.
And so I, to be honest, no negative experience about it at all, other than the medication. But yeah, I mean, I knew it was coming. So then 10 months later, I got diagnosed with the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But I think I was still in that positive mindset where, okay, this is how I reacted. I pretty much said to the doctor, right, what's the treatment? How long is it going to take? Let's hurry up and do it and book me in so I can move on and continue my life.
Yeah.
Everyone else around me fell apart. All my family fell apart. And I then became the rock for everyone else.
Wow.
And again, like, throughout the lymphoma, I mean, the only thing that affected me was when I lost my hair. And
Yeah.
that's so small when I look back on it now.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's part of my identity. So that's what was
Course.
affecting me. The chemotherapy didn't affect me. The fact that I had to go to the hospital every 3 weeks didn't affect me. It was that I was going to lose my hair. But then I sort of twisted it and I said, right, so my hair is going to come out regardless. It was coming out in chunks. And I didn't like that feeling at all. Horrible
No.
feeling. And so I said to myself, well, I'm going to take control of this situation. So I went and bought a wig, and then I got my auntie to come, who was a hairdresser. And I said, you're shaving my head today. She goes, really? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, get it, like, shave it. And that was my way of taking control of the
Yeah.
situation.
That's a brave step forward.
It's huge, yeah. And so then, because something happened every year, I think I was just in this survival slash adrenaline mode the whole time. I didn't process anything. It was just one thing, like a hit after hit after hit every year. And it was just, right, just survive. What's the next step to survive?
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I wrote my book where I actually sat down and processed everything and gone, oh, shit, like, I have been through a lot. I didn't believe
Yeah.
it. People used to tell me all the time, you know,
Yeah.
you've been through a lot. I said, not really. I said, I did what I had to do.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it hit me when I wrote the book. But then I found that therapeutic. So
Well, it's releasing it. But did you cry? Like, did you cry when you were writing the book? Because I mean, you were so strong throughout the whole process, throughout those 10 years or 11
yeah,
years, like your whole life, basically. But
yeah.
did you actually get time to cry?
I cried in two parts of the book, and the two parts involved my husband, actually.
Yeah.
Um, so there was one part where he'd, during my spinal fusion, it was on New Year's Eve. So I was in hospital and I got put into a coma because my neck had swollen up. And he'd posted on my Facebook wall a really beautiful message, and it's in the book.
Yeah.
And when I went back and looked at that message, that got to me.
Yeah.
I'd rarely cry. Like, it's horrible. I don't cry. But that got
Well,
to
I guess
me.
you don't really have that much time to really be sad about things given what you've
No,
gone through. That's enough
no,
already. You need to find some
exactly.
happy times in there.
That's it. And then so the other time was, again, my last incident, which was in November 22. I was in a coma for 7 days, and I'd woken up from the coma, and they said to me, I couldn't talk, they had the tube down my throat. And they said to me, right, we're going to pull this tube out, and we don't know if you're going to survive, or we don't know if you're going to breathe. And at the time, I just was concentrating on breathing. So again, I didn't process anything. But then when I wrote that part, and when my husband told me how he felt and he came in and held my hand, again, that got to me big time. And so it's funny, I cared about other people's feelings more than myself, really.
Oh, bless you. That's why you're here to
Yeah,
help people. But
yeah, yeah,
there's, through you can really feel your sense of lightheartedness, I guess, and some humor with the way you have
yeah,
tongue-in-cheek things where you say. I really like that about the book. Your personality really shines through it. Um,
yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. No, and that's what I wanted. When I wrote the book, I didn't want it to be a medical journal. I didn't want it to be, all technical. Yes, it explains the conditions in my terms, like the way any person could understand. And then I do throw humor into it. I do throw, my husband and I got married and all that experience into it. I mean, when I lost the use of my eyelid, I'm a
yeah.
Collingwood supporter now. So now I can say I'm a one-eyed Collingwood supporter. So um, I think that's important in any diagnosis. You need to find the humor
Yeah.
and the good times in it as well. That's
Yeah.
what's going to keep you alive, really.
That's just showing how brave you are and courageous. I want to go back, like way back. From my
Yep,
perspective, one of the most challenging times were through your late teens, pretty much right up till very recently.
yep,
But it did start right bang on your life, basically at birth. Tell us
yeah,
about when Amelia was born on October 4, 1992.
that's it. So
Situation.
yeah, I was born and my parents were quite young. Mum was only 23, dad was 25, 26. I'm the firstborn, so first time parents, and within hours of being born, I was rushed straight to the children's hospital. So what should have been, mum and dad's most happiest time of their life, which it pretty much turned into the most scariest time of their life because they didn't know what was going on.
Mm.
And obviously, I mean, I was a newborn. I had no idea what was going on. And
Yeah.
then to watch their newborn baby be poked and prodded and tested and, ultrasounds and more pokes and prods and by all these strangers that they'd never ever seen before,
Mm.
I can only even half imagine what that would have felt like.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a good few weeks before it was even diagnosed as kidney disease, and I had all this fluid in my stomach, so that got drained a few times. And then, by the time I was 2, my right kidney was removed. So
Yeah.
that's pretty major surgery for a 2-year-old.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the first of many. So you grew up
Hmm.
in Melbourne. What
I
about
did.
you? You mentioned earlier about you being the rock for everybody. Tell us about
Yeah,
your upbringing. How was your family in those early years?
it was great. I mean, I always describe my childhood as complicated because, I mean, I was never allowed to go to sleepovers. I wasn't allowed to go to school camps. I wasn't allowed to play contact sport in case my good kidney was, damaged or hit. But I was well looked after, I think. And
That was looking after you.
yeah, well, that's it. True. I
Yeah.
think it's just I purposely made, because I knew that obviously I was different. I had something going on with me
Yeah.
that, normal children don't usually have to go through. I just made the most of every moment back then. So if I knew I was going somewhere, I was going to just enjoy it 100%. And then when mum and dad enrolled me into dancing and singing, that was just like, I looked forward to that every week. And that was just my most favorite thing
Yeah,
ever.
you were part of the Young Teletyme crew, weren't
I
you?
was.
That's so cool.
I
Everybody in
think
the
for a good
80s was
8 years
going,
or
like
something.
everybody that grew up in the 80s wanted to be part of that crew.
Yeah, yeah. So I loved it. I did dancing and singing there, and I won some awards. And then at the end of year concert, Johnny Young and John Farnham would get up on stage and would sing "You're the Voice." And
So
I was
cool.
you know what, had no worries. Forgot that I was even living with kidney disease because I was
That's
so
so good.
focused on dancing and singing. So that's where my passion is. I love dancing and singing.
Do you still do that?
Well, I hadn't done it for years, and I've got a voice coach now who is a singing teacher. So she's learning or teaching me. I'm learning how
Yeah.
to sing again. And yeah, I'm trying to look for a dance teacher or a choreographer that's willing to take on a 31-year-old and give them private lessons. So
That is awesome.
I'm definitely getting back into it. Now
You
that
can,
I'm stable and healthy enough,
yeah,
that is what I'm getting back into.
you can't keep a good girl down, that's for sure.
No, no, not at all.
So going back again, you met your lovely boyfriend, Aaron, is now your husband, in your mid-teens. A beautiful story. It does
I
include
was
a bit of Facebook
17.
stalking.
Oh, yes.
Tell us
So yeah, I
about
was
that and
17
Aaron.
when I met him, and we'd just gone to a mutual friend's house, and I think all we said to each other was hi and bye that night, and that was it. And of course, yes, Facebook stalking was very big back then. So I jumped online and I searched for him, and I'm like, yeah, that's him. So I added him, and then I went to bed, and then the next morning I get a little, notification pop up, and it's Aaron, and he goes, hey, thanks for the ad, but do I know you? And oh,
What?
this feeling of like doubt just came through me, and I'm like, oh no, like I've added the wrong person. How embarrassing. How am I going to get myself out of this now?
Yeah.
And then I had a really good look, and I'm like, no, it's definitely him. So I just replied and go, hey, I think I met you last night. And then he personal messaged me, and then we got talking. And I originally didn't want a relationship. I was 17. I was young. I'd just come out of a, sweet 16 relationship.
Yeah.
And I know, so at that point in time, I just had my bladder reconstruction, major
Mm.
surgery. They grabbed a bit of my bowel and reconstructed my bladder. And they said, because at the time my kidney was only at 20%. And then at that time, I knew that I was going to have a transplant sometime soon. And I said to him, I don't want to bring someone into that. Like, I mean, that's horrific. I don't want to bring a new, especially so young. But I said, look, I'm happy to be friends, and we'll just, have the transplant, and then we'll see what happens. And he was adamant about, no, 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 I want to stick around. And so we went on a few dates, and here we are 14 years later, married for 6 years, and he stayed
Amazing.
by my side every single step of the way. So,
Yeah, he's
so grateful
definitely,
to have him. So,
yeah,
so grateful.
he sounds like an absolute champion.
Well, hey, in reality, not many people would stick around for that. So,
No, no, that's right. That's right.
yeah,
Well, you're both very lucky to have each other, I guess, given, the situation with
well, that's
how
it.
everything has gone. So,
Yeah.
and then it was not long after you met him that you actually needed to have your kidney
No, so it was
transplant.
actually 4 years later. So
Right,
when I was 21, yeah.
right.
So I had my transplant at 21. And like I said, transplant went well, perfect. I got it from dad, so good old dad. We were almost perfect match, and had the transplant, and the doctor described it as soon as I connected it, it worked instantly. I was like, great, that's good to know.
Yeah, that's what you
Um,
want.
exactly. So I had a working kidney from get-go. I had to go on a whole bunch of medication. I went on a steroid, put on like 10 kilos overnight because they pump you full of fluid. So I had to get used to all these changes, but that's all right. That's nothing compared to what I'd just been through.
Yeah.
And then I was just sort of living life. I was working my part-time job, recovering. I was
That's
going
it.
to uni.
That's incredible. Like you have just been through all of that with your kidney transplant. You're working, you're going to
Yeah,
uni, you're getting a
yeah.
kidney transplant. You are the
Just living
G.
life like normal, going out every weekend, doing normal 21-year-old stuff. And then, yeah, 10 months later, I joined a gym. And turns out the person that owns the gym also had a kidney transplant. She was much older than me.
Yeah.
So we clicked instantly, and
That's awesome.
so I started going to the gym because I'm like, I need to start getting fit now. Like, I need to look after myself. And so I went to the gym, and then I got this knee pain in my left knee. Went to emergency about 4 or 5 times, got specialists, got scans done, a knee doctor, and no one could find anything. They just like, look, you've injured yourself. Here's some pain relief. You'll be fine. Anyway, weeks and weeks. I think we're at like the 6 weeks now or 8 weeks. And I'm like, it's getting worse. And to the point where even when I was laying backwards, like it was excruciating pain. So just didn't make sense. Anyway, I'd spoken to my old kidney doctor at the time, and I mentioned that when I lay down, it got worse. And so he said, well, that's strange that it's getting worse when you're laying down. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So we booked an MRI in, and we got the MRI done, and then I got a call straight away, and he's like, look, I'll meet you at Warringal. I've got a bed there. It's a private hospital in Heidelberg. And I'll see you in a few hours. And I thought, oh, this can't be good. Like, obviously something's come up. Anyway, I'd gone there, and he said, yeah, it looks like there's some sort of tumour in your back. Turns out the tumour was pushing on a nerve, which was referring down to my knee.
Wow.
Which was causing the pain. So within a week, I'd had a bone marrow biopsy, a tumour biopsy, a PET scan, all blood tests, you name it, I had it all. Within a week, I was diagnosed with the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and then 2 days later, I'd started my chemotherapy.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, so that was full on.
Yeah.
So being 22, I just turned 22 in October. So yeah, I was 22 years old and going through cancer.
Yeah, that's
just
great.
after a kidney transplant.
Yeah.
So it was nuts. And the thing I felt I struggled with the most was walking onto the ward and, to have my chemotherapy and not have anyone my age there at all. Like, it was just everyone were in their 50s, 60s, 70s, plus 80s. And so now I want to be that mentor for younger people, because I feel like if I had that, I would have, even though I got through it pretty well, but it would have just been even better having someone close to my age who had experienced it as well.
Yeah, that would have felt very lonely and isolating.
Yeah.
But obviously your mental power, like I said to begin with, it's your superpower to have gotten through all
I
of
think
this.
it is, yeah.
It really is. Like, how have you done that? But, the fact that you have been through it, firsthand now, to go back and help other people, 'cause I wish I could say that cancer's going away. You know what I
it's
mean?
definitely not.
Yeah.
It's definitely not.
And
I mean, I'm lucky. I consider myself lucky to have survived it, because obviously, there is people out there that don't survive it, and I do feel for them as well. But you've just got to take it as it is and make the most of any situation you can.
were you saying to yourself, like, I'm going to get rid of this cancer, it's not in me, or how did your mind
pretty
work?
much. So I had a scan booked halfway through the treatment. So I had 6 rounds of chemotherapy.
Yeah.
And they do a scan halfway through. And after the first round, I was like, that's it, it's gone. Like, this chemo's working.
Yeah.
And then I started to feel better. So I was like, that's it, I'm feeling better now. So it must be gone. The knee pain went. So I'm like, that's it. I'm like, the scan's going to show that it's not going to be there. And by the 3rd round, almost, like, it was riddled. I was stage 3. I was this close to being stage 4. And stage 4 is when it enters the bone marrow.
Wow.
So I was very, very close to entering the bone marrow. And it was like all my organs were riddled with cancer, and like 80% of it had gone already. And again, I think it's just because, again, I was working at the time. I didn't quit my job. I just went to my appointment. Again, I was going to uni, going to the gym, going out on weekends. I just lived, it was just living next to me rather than defining me. And I've always said I would never let any health issue define me at all.
Yeah.
I'm simply Emmilia. That's it.
Yeah. You're awesome.
So,
I've said it to you a million times. I love you. You're so amazing.
Thank you. Well, another example, like with the mindset thing, is so when I was in the coma and I'd woken up, all I wanted to do was talk and walk. And obviously, first thing I did was tried to pull the tube out, and the nurses ran over and said, "No, don't do that," and shackled me to the bed. So I was like a prisoner in this hospital bed. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing is they pulled it out, and I was trying to talk, but I could barely talk because my throat was so damaged. And then I'd finally woken up and gained consciousness and realised where I was, a few hours later. And I said, I want to walk. And they're like, are you crazy? Like, you've just been in a coma for 7 days. And I'm like, no, I want to walk. And the issue was I didn't have any shoes. So my husband went home, got shoes or slippers and brought them back. I literally took 2 steps and I was like, yeah, I'm done. And I went back to the bed. But the fact that I wanted to walk. Anyway, I'd gone onto the ward a couple of days later. And when you're in a coma, you lose all your muscle mass. Like, you've got nothing left. So I couldn't actually walk. Right. I couldn't even lift myself like up from bed or anything like that. And so I was in this predicament of my mind was telling me, Emmilia, come on, get up and walk. But then my body wouldn't allow it. So I was having this battle between my mind and my body. And so within 3 or 4 days, I'd asked the nurses to bring a physio in, and I was that determined. So they'd bring me a walker, and I was walking on I was holding onto the walker. And they're like, all right, we'll try and get up. And I'm like, all right. So in my mind, I'm like, Emmilia, like, count down and get up. So I'd literally count in my mind, 3, 2, 1, and get up. And I couldn't get up.
Right.
So then I tried a different position. And then I got a little bit of help with the physio, but then I was up and standing. And I thought, great, like, I celebrated that little tiny thing.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't do it. And then I finally just did it. So, yes, I regularly talk to myself almost every morning, like even to get out of bed. I'm like, all right, Emmilia, you're going to do this, this, and this today, or you want to do this, this, and this today, you've got to get up now and do it. So,
well, you can pretty much conquer anything.
Yeah, I'd like to hope so. I think so.
Well, you pretty much already have, Emmilia.
Yeah. Even at the gym, like my personal trainer's like, all right, so we're going to do this many rounds, and halfway through, she's like, oh, how are you going? I'm like, no, you've told me to do 30 reps. I'm doing them. Like, you've told me 30, I'm doing 30. I don't care if I'm in that much pain. And she goes, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm doing 30. And again, I count in my mind, all right, 10 to go. And so, yeah, I think it's just hyping myself up.
Where do you think that comes from? Do you think it comes from having to go through all that hardship, or?
I think it is. I think it's my choice. I always refer back to the fight or flight response. I've got 2 options here. I can stay and fight, or I can run away. But if I run away, where's it going to take me? It's not going to achieve anything.
Yeah.
Whereas if I stay and fight, even if I don't achieve what I intend to achieve, at least if I achieve something, then I feel like I'm doing something. I feel like I'm accomplishing something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I've said to myself, you've got no choice, Emmilia. That's it. You're fighting every single situation you're in. You're there and you're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
I think it's resilience.
Outlook.
I think it just comes down to resilience. And it's funny because I don't think resilience can be taught. Like, I can't sit here and teach you how to be resilient. I can tell you how I'm resilient and the things I do.
Yeah.
But I think it's up to the person, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I guess also what's put in front of them, and
That's
you're
right.
living proof that you can get through it.
Yeah.
And that's why I highly recommend your book. I mean, you're living proof, and even the conversation today, that you can get through it. It's only your mind saying, yeah, no, I'm not doing this.
That's it. Yeah.
With all of those things that you went through, I think the craniotomy was also do you want to go into that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I couldn't see the script for editing with the tears.
Oh, I know. So that was so unexpected.
Yeah.
And it was in 2020, smack bang at like
COVID.
Yeah. So I had
couldn't have picked a better time, Emmilia.
I know. Oh, trusting me. So yeah, I had done some hormone tests and they were all 0. And because 6 months prior to that, and I thought, hey, we'll start a family, or we'll start thinking about starting a family. And so, yeah, we did all these tests and all my hormones were 0. And apparently when all your hormones are 0, the next thing is to do an MRI on the head to rule out tumours. So we've gone and done this MRI, and I've gotten a call within a couple of days, and The hospital said, yep, you need to come in next week. I thought, all right, here we go. Something's happened. I just knew straight away something's happened, but I wasn't expecting a craniotomy. I just knew, all right, they've found something.
Yeah.
So I've gone in and they're like, well, we've found a tumor in the pituitary gland area, so just below the brain. It's about 2 to 3 centimeters or 2.5, 3.5, something like that. It's quite large and we need to get it out. I said, okay, so what are my options? And they're like, well, we can try radiation to shrink it, but it's probably not going to get rid of it. Ideally, we want to go up the nose, but because of its size, we probably can't get all of it through the nose. So we're probably going to have to go via craniotomy. And I thought, okay, well, you know what? Let's not waste time. Let's just do it and get it over and done with. So that's exactly what I did. So I was booked in, I think, a week later. And
no time to think about it, really, thankfully.
Yeah, I had no time to process, no time to think.
Yeah.
They were just like, right, we're just going to do this. It's, complex surgery, but we've done it this many times before. They reassured me, and I was like, all right, good enough for me. Let's just go and do it.
Yeah.
What I didn't know was they did tell me that I might lose my eye function, as in seeing ability.
Right.
But they didn't tell me about my eyelid, so I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
So I've been booked in. Aaron's driven me to the hospital at like 6 o'clock in the morning because I'm booked in at like 7 o'clock to go in. And it was because it was COVID. He wasn't even allowed to come in and walk me into the hospital. So it was like, drop me off at the door. See ya. Like, see you in a week.
That's when I
gonna be in the hospital
cried.
for a week.
I was like, oh.
Yeah. And it was horrible. Like, I sort of teared up and I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And I was like, okay, give you a hug, a kiss, and I'll call you when I'm out, sort of thing. And then the surgery all day. It was like a 10-hour surgery. And when I'd woken up, I'd looked like, there's a photo in my book, and like this eye's all purple, and I've got a massive scar with staples across here, and this eye, because of the surgery, is all dazed, and I couldn't really see much out of it. So I couldn't even actually pick up the phone and text or call anyone either.
Oh.
So they put me on that many painkillers that I've pretty much slept for a few days, other than the mandatory get out of bed the next morning.
Yeah.
Which is always standard with any surgery. But I'm like, come on, man, you've just cut my head open. Like,
yeah.
give me a bit of a break. So I'd gone through all that, and then I finally got to the stage where I could call, and I actually ended up taping my other eye open so I could see what I was doing. And
innovative, mate, innovative.
Oh, well, I said, I need to see somehow. So what am I going to do? And I asked the nurse for some tape. She goes, what for? I'm like, my eye. And she goes, oh, okay. And so I pinned it up, and all the doctors would walk in and laugh at me. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, this eye's a bit sleepy at the moment because, it's been through surgery and I need to see. So, and in the end, they thought, oh, great idea, actually. Just because the muscles were all weak because of the surgery.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was probably the fifth day now, and I then found out, I was like, oh, great, I get to go home soon. And then the doctors come in and they're like, look, we only removed 92% of the tumour, so you're going to have another surgery in a couple of days. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, you're going to have another surgery and you'll be in hospital for another week after that. So this was transphenoidal, so they then go through the nose and remove the rest of it.
Crazy.
So it was all over again, straight back to the surgery room. This time it involved a skin graft as well. And let me tell you, the skin graft was the most painful thing I've ever been through.
Really?
Yeah. So I woken up from the second surgery and I was screaming in pain, which I've never, ever done from any surgery before. And I was pointing to my thigh. And the doctors and the medical staff were trying to work out where this pain was coming from. And they finally worked out it was a skin graft.
Yeah, that would be painful.
Yeah.
All of that whole thing has been painful.
Yeah. So, but like, that's the thing. Every other time I've woken up, no pain. This time, excruciating. So that threw a spanner in the works, and that took a while to get under control. But I was always used to having people come in, like my parents, my brother, Aaron, come in and see me. And that was my driving inspiration to keep going.
Yeah.
And to not have that this time, it was extremely difficult. Like, I was going crazy, and I thought, well, I'm actually going to go crazy now.
Yeah.
So another week had passed, and I said to them, I need to go home. And they're like, oh, we want to keep you for a few more days. I'm like, but why? Why are you keeping me? And they're like, oh, just in case. And I'm like, but am I okay to go? They're like, well, technically, yes. I'm like, I need you to discharge me like now because I'm mentally going crazy,
Yeah. And that's
not
the only thing
seeing
that's been
anyone.
getting you through. So you needed.
That's right. So I needed that. And so we came to an agreement and they let me go home. But honestly, like, I understand why they were keeping people away and visitors away, but that was hard. Like that, I can't describe it. Like that almost broke me.
Yeah.
Like that was probably, I was on the last straw with that one.
Well, that goes to show, just proves your resilience even more.
Oh, but it was tough. Like I was video calling people and, you can video call, but it's still not the same as having the
No.
human touch there.
So true.
I said, what if Aaron comes in and wears like 2 suits and 10 masks? And they're like,
Bless him.
we can't go against hospital protocol. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I tried everything. And you go crazy looking at the 4 walls, and they're all white and the floor's white and the linen's white and your gown is white and everything
Yeah.
around you is just white. So, yeah, that almost broke me.
Yeah.
But then later on that year in December, I had to have the 2 surgeries of the neck dissection and then the spinal fusion.
Yeah.
But luckily the rules had changed and I was allowed 2 visitors, I think, for 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
So they were alternating between my parents and Aaron, and I was happy then because I could have people with me.
Yeah, definitely would have made a difference. Yeah, there would have been nothing worse and like it wasn't just like a little tiny minor surgery
No,
going through
like the
that.
most biggest surgery I've ever been involved
Crazy.
in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I survived it.
And you've written a book about it.
And I've written a book about it.
Yeah. So what are you doing now? I mean, you're saying that you're starting to look for dancing and singing, or you're doing singing lessons
Yeah,
or
I'm doing
taught, so
singing.
that's
I
good.
want to get into dancing again.
And you're
They're
working?
more hobby stuff, so if that leads me somewhere, great, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you've got a gorgeous
and
voice. I've said this to you with your narration. I can imagine you've got a gorgeous singing voice.
well, I got worried because there's been 3 occasions where my voice box has been moved and potentially damaged. So there was the neck dissection, the spinal fusion.
Yeah.
Then I had to have radiation to that area as well, like weeks later. So my voice box has essentially been damaged, and then also all the comas I've been in as well with the tube down your throat.
Yeah.
So there was times where I got told that I wouldn't even speak again,
Wow.
and I think talking is one of my passions as well. So
Yeah,
I'm like, I
you're good
can't
at
lose
it.
my voice.
Yeah.
So the fact that I even got my voice back was a miracle, and the doctors think so they're going to put me through speech therapy, and they're like, you don't actually need it. I'm like, are you sure? They're like, no. And then my husband said, yeah, it's because you talk too much, so you gave your own speech therapy, which is true. So, yeah, I'm
Some
grateful
things
for
have
that.
got
So
to
then,
work in your favor, right?
exactly. So again, I just started talking, started strengthening those muscles, and I can talk now. So I got worried about the singing because I was like, oh, maybe I don't have, my voice changed a bit. It's a bit more huskier and deeper.
Yeah,
But apparently I've got something there. So we'll
that's
see what
cool.
happens.
We could see you on
Yeah.
X Factor or Australia's Got Talent
Oh,
soon, eh?
imagine
That'd be
that.
cool. I'd love that. Keep me posted, right?
I will. And then my other thing is my podcast. I'm going to launch a podcast very shortly.
Yes.
I did one recording session actually because I found a studio in Melbourne which I was really drawn to because they do video podcasting.
Awesome.
But then I also want to do, so at the start it's just going to be me and my story and get to know me. But then I want guests and, interstate guests and international guests as well. So I will have to
Absolutely.
do my own thing like we are today. So that's when I'll get you involved. And
That's very exciting.
yeah, you can
And I
help me
think,
with
I
that
mean,
sort of stuff.
yeah, well, your message is so important, just
Yeah,
the resilient side that, yeah, that you are here for a reason. That I think from reading your
absolutely.
book, that's the reason to help people, get
Oh,
beyond
I've
things.
always said it for years. I want to help people. And I always imagined it being in the medical world, whether it was nursing, whether it was social work, whether it was pathology testing.
Yeah.
I always imagined it being in the medical world. One stage I thought, hey, I'll become a doctor. I'm already, I already know all the medical lingo.
Yeah.
Surely I can become a doctor. And then I thought, no, I don't want to follow protocols. I don't want to follow the hospital system. I want to be there for people on a personal level.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I'm pursuing now.
That's
So
so
I've done a few
beautiful.
speaking gigs as well. So
So you are
hopefully,
yes, and people can recruit you for speaking gigs, can't they?
absolutely they can. Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
So I'm leaning into that too. And
Are you still working
um,
while doing all of this?
yes, I've still got a part-time job.
And don't tell me you're still at the gym, right?
I am still at the gym. I have to because of my osteoporosis. I hate the gym. I absolutely hate the gym. And so the only way I will train is if I have a personal trainer. So it's the same personal trainer I met all those years ago.
Oh, fabulous.
Um, and I go and see her 3 times a week or else I will not train.
Yeah.
And I've been told because of my osteoporosis, I've got to strengthen my bones. So I've had to incorporate that into my life.
Yeah.
Wasn't happy about it, but you got to do what
Sometimes
you
you
got to
just,
do.
yeah, that's right. Sometimes you just got to do. So
Yeah, that's it.
is that weight training for your bones?
Mainly weight training, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And okay, so your
So
podcast, so when are you looking to kind of launch that? Have you got a date in mind?
hoping maybe end of August, early September, hopefully.
Coming up very soon.
Yeah,
And how's
maybe
your,
more September, but that's my aim.
yeah, well, we'll definitely keep an eye out. And how is your health now?
Oh, it's
How's
great
everything?
now. So ever since that really bad episode in November 2022, yeah, I haven't really had any major go wrong other than recently kidney stones, which I didn't know about.
Right.
Because apparently they're the most, one of the most painful things in the world.
Whoa.
So I found out via a scan, just a routine scan that I had, and they're like, "Did you know you got kidney stones?" I'm like, "Nope." And they're
Do
like,
you have to
"Okay."
do they have to get them out or?
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, I actually went in to get them removed, and turns out, so there's a tube from your bladder to your kidney. I think it's called the ureter. And mine was too narrow, so they couldn't get the laser machine up there. So
Oh,
they had to put a stent in.
right.
And then so I'm booked in a couple of weeks from now to get them removed. Again, it's just an overnight stay in hospital. I go back to work the next day and live my life for the rest of the days.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "You're crazy. Don't you take the week off?" I'm like, "No, I'll get bored."
Yeah. And yeah,
Um,
obviously that method's definitely worked for you in the past, so why change it now, right?
Absolutely. Like when I had my old job, I'd be bringing my laptop to work and working and doing some emails from my hospital bed, and all the nurses would walk in and go, "You're crazy." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What else am I supposed to do while I'm in hospital?"
Didn't you go to work after you had one of those transfusions or
Oh,
something?
I didn't know. So my
Like I just
fistula,
had all my
well,
brain.
two,
Oh,
two was incidents very quickly. When I was in school, I had fistulas created. So when you go into renal failure or kidney failure, you go on dialysis. So they create these fistulas, which is a vein and artery in your arm, and then it grows really big so they can put the really big needles in to filter your blood. I had 3 of those created, all of them clotted. So anyway, one particular morning I was booked in at like 7 a.m. Mum taking me down, and they don't put you to sleep, they just block your arm. You
right.
can't see anything because they put a massive drape up. They take you to theatre, but you're fully awake. And I don't know why they didn't knock me out because I said to the doctor the whole time, "Have you cut my arm open yet? Are you nearly done? Have you joined my vein and artery? When are
Did
you
he
going to
say
close
stop
me up?"
talking?
Yeah, they're like, "Shut up." I swear the doctor's probably like, "I should have just knocked her out."
Uh,
Anyway, so yeah, I got back to the ward at like, it's like a quick half an hour procedure. Got back to the ward at 8, and I think I got discharged by 9 or 9:30. And I said to Mum, "Take me to school." Like I had my uniform. She goes, "What?" I'm like, "Well, it's only 9:30. I've still got the rest of the day. Take me to school." And everyone freaked out. And I was like, "Well, what else am I going to do? Go home and do nothing? Like, I'll go to school." So that was one incident. And then when I was on dialysis, I had a tube inserted into my chest because I couldn't get the fistulas working. And it was my first ever dialysis session. And I had the session. I was hooked up to the machine for, I think, 3 hours. Drove myself to and from there. It was only 5 minutes down the road, but still. Got home, put my uniform on, drove 20 minutes to my job. I think I was running on adrenaline the whole time.
yeah.
Got to my job, worked for about half an hour to an hour, and then got really dizzy really quick. And I thought, oh, maybe it's just because I haven't eaten or whatever. So I tried to eat and drink something. Dizziness was not going away. So I had to get Aaron to come and pick me up. but just stupid little things that I decide to
Yeah.
do.
Well, it's your way of pushing through, but yeah, I
Well, it
guess
is.
sometimes you've got to also accept that you've got to just chill out for a little while and till I
And
can,
I've learnt that now. So
yeah,
when I am feeling really, horrible or tired or sore, I will go and sit down for a good half an hour or whatever I need. Like the other day, I was really tired, so I went and had a nap. I'm learning that, yes, that is very important. That's what you have to do.
yeah. Well, I guess after
Um,
going through all of that, you get wise.
yeah,
You get
exactly.
wiser. You learn the
Yeah,
tricks of
well,
the
I've got to
trade.
learn stuff myself. I don't know everything either. So,
That's right.
um,
And
yeah,
how's
so,
things with you and Aaron now?
oh, it's
I mean,
great. So,
obviously he's lovely, and you found the love of your life. You've traveled
yes,
overseas, and I know that
yeah.
Hawaii is your happy place.
Oh,
And
yeah, Hawaii is my happy place. So we went there for our honeymoon because we wanted something tropical and warm, but we'd already done Queensland, we'd already done Bali, we'd already done Thailand. So Hawaii it was. And then 2 years later, mum turned 50. So I thought, and I found really cheap flights with Jetstar. So I'm like, done, we're going again. Um, so yeah, no, things are good. So it actually all turned around a couple of years ago. Aaron got this opportunity to open his own workshop. So he did. And I was working full time. And I said, well, this is your chance. I'm working full time. You go and open that workshop. So he's done that. And yeah, everything's working well for us at the moment, which is good. Fingers crossed.
awesome, awesome.
And then we're planning at the end. So he'll close a couple of weeks. He always closes for a couple of weeks at the end of the year
Yeah.
because he can't have any other holidays. And our brother-in-law is in Canada at the moment on a 2-year working visa.
Right.
So my brother-in-law, Aaron's brother. And so we're thinking a trip over to Canada for a white Christmas and
Sounds
then to
amazing.
America for a couple of, for a week or so as well.
Very cool.
So yeah, I haven't let anything affect me. So I'm hoping telling all these stories just shows people that
Yeah.
just because you're going through stuff, don't let it get in the way of life. Like
Yeah.
still continue to live your life,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, just look at Emmilia. Living proof. Living
That's
proof.
it. Take inspiration from me and
Yeah,
use me
definitely.
to,
Yeah. And I'm so
get
glad you're
through.
not effing dead, and I'm sure
Oh, me
everyone
too.
else is, and all the people that are bound to meet you, whether it's through reading your book or, the ebook or listening to your audiobook or,
Yeah,
watching your podcast. And can people reach out to you just to catch
absolutely they
up? How
can.
do
So
they do
I've got
that?
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, any of those platforms. Just search my name. And yeah, they can message me, comment on anything, and I'll be available to chat. As I said, I want to give that personal experience. And, I've got other things in only talking now, but eventually I'll have some, peer support and mentorship going on where people can
Fantastic.
book in with me. And then my ultimate thing would be to bring a whole group of young people together in a room and have an entertainment side of things and have some activities and just have a good, afternoon or night where people are in the same room and they've gone through similar things and they can just forget about it for a night and actually enjoy themselves.
Oh, that sounds
So
amazing. Yeah.
that's my long-term goal.
Yeah, well, keep shining brightly. I've no doubt you're going to get there with what you've powered through and how you do it so quickly and with such diligence and resilience.
Yeah.
And you just don't let any challenge, like you're the challenge. That
Yeah,
challenge
pretty
can,
much.
you're
Thank
tackling
you.
that thing. You're so awesome. Oh, I have been so fortunate to work with you and hearing your audio book and, helping you get it out to everybody. Hopefully it's not too far away. We're just about to hit go on the submission. So
Yes.
2 to 6 weeks from podcast date to having the book out there.
Yeah, and it'll be all released all over my social media so people will know exactly where to go and how to get it.
Yeah,
And I want the
awesome.
feedback. Come and reach out to me after you've listened to it and tell me what you think.
Yeah,
Because I'm
awesome.
interested to know.
And I'll put all the links down to get in touch with Emmilia and you can
Thank
contact her.
you.
Yeah. And thank you for being part of my podcast today. I've loved every minute.
That's okay. My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining the Simone Feiler Podcast.
What's your story?
Contact Simone for a chat at brisbaneaudiobookproduction.com.